All right, once we get on to the site of TinkerCAD, we're going to start by changing the name of the file. So we're going to replace this with your name, type in your actual name. For me, I'm going to type in my first and last name. Next, I want you to go down here where you see settings. If yours is saying MM, I want you to go to settings so that we can change that from millimeters to inches. And right here where you see units, next to that we see millimeters, and we're going to click this drop down arrow and change that to inches. Now we can close the settings. Next, right here by snap grid, I want you to click on this drop arrow and click 1/64 inch. Next, I want you to drag a cube or a box onto the work plane. Once you get your cube onto the work plane, I want you to change that length to 3.5 inches. Next, we're going to change the height to 0.08 inches. Step 5, we're going to change the width to 1.125 inches. I want you to see how these corners are sharp right here. So we're going to change the radius of these corners by clicking this drop down arrow and change that radius to 0.085. And that will give it a more of a rounder type edge so they won't be so sharp. Next, I want you to drag a cylinder onto the work plane, but this time we're not going to follow the steps to the handout. I just want you to click one of the corners and we're going to make that size or those dimensions for 0.195. And then we're going to do the same thing, 0.195. And now you can align that with your arrow keys or you can drag it over. Either way, okay? Get it in a spot where you'll be happy. Remember, this is where your keychain will go. You're making a hole so you can hook it to a set of keys. All right, it can be in the center. Put it in the place where you think works best. Okay, so now I will start to nudge it a little bit with my arrow keys. Now you want to select both the cylinder and the shape, the rectangle, and you'll see right here where it says two. That means I've got two shapes together, and I want to go right here to group. Click group, and that will place a hole inside of my rectangle. Okay, so you can see that hole from the top and the bottom. Next, you want to drag the text onto the work plane, and you're going to change that text to your name. So up here, you go up here and you would type right here your name or whatever you're going to put on your keychain, the name you're going to place on your keychain. I'm going to use my last name. And I also want to change the color, so I don't want those colors to be the same, just so that I can see the difference when I place it on top of one another. Okay. Now let's change the dimensions of this text. We're going to change the text height to 0.065. We're going to change the length to 3.25 or 3 1/4 if you're dealing with your fractions. And right here from 0.75 or simply 3/4 if we're talking about fractions. All right. Now let's drag this text onto the rectangle, but it's underneath, and that's okay because I'm going to show you something. This wasn't on the worksheet either, so we're going to drag a work plane on top of the rectangle. Let's do that again. Click work plane tool and click right here on top of the rectangle. And we're going to press D to drop our letters on top of the rectangle like that. To get rid of this, we're going to drag a rectangle back out and click it. And now we're back to our original view. Okay. We're going to group these together. We can align them if we need to. It's not necessary. We can eyeball this for the first one. Looks pretty good. Okay. Select both the name and your rectangle and group them together. And for the purpose of this, I'm gonna just go back to multicolor so I can see the difference. I do have them grouped. And when we get ready to export this, we're gonna click on export right up here. That's a STL. The file will not be ready to print just yet because we'll take it to a slicer, but you will see how that is done also.